Hello everyone and welcome to Johnny Rocket, the complete walkthrough guide. So we're going to go ahead and start off here, just a very simple and quick and easy completion. I don't actually have any game sound on this, but I am going to commentate over the rest of it. So without any further ado, I'm going to show you level 1 here. So it's a relatively fun game overall. It's only got a couple of levels and they're relatively easy. So you want to start off either using your pistol or the run animation attack. So the run animation attack actually does a lot more damage than the pistol, and the pistol is actually very slow when shooting. Now, there is one achievement at the very end which is going to require you to quit out of the game, put it into hardcore mode, and then go back into the game for the last boss fight on hardcore, where you cannot be hit once at all. And I'm pretty sure if you get hit by one of the bullets, it's game over, but it's relatively easy. You just have to keep going around one platform consistently, shooting the wheel on the right hand side. But I have heard you can use the B move on the final boss, which makes it a little bit quicker to kill him, but I didn't want to risk it, so I did it the easy method. So continuing on here with level 1, you'll see that with your health, it is actually toilet paper. Now, they put the toilet paper in ridiculous locations, in my opinion, in the game for you to try and collect, and when you do find them, they are often in a tough spot to grab and probably not even worth it, because they're either right next to someone with a machine gun or there's an explosive, just always something that will damage you and cause you to die quicker. Now, there are checkpoints throughout the levels which do help, and you will see me using them, so I would try and get to those checkpoints as quickly as possible, as the second you actually gain a checkpoint advantage, if you do die after that, it's just going to reset you back to the original point position. So we're coming up to the first boss here. Now, the strategy for this first boss is actually just to keep jumping up and down on the platform. So you can actually shoot over him and not actually damage him whatsoever on the right hand side, but you want to keep jumping up and down towards the bottom platform and the top platform, just dodging his bullets. And I've heard that using the B move on him is a lot faster, as I do with the second boss, as it does a lot more damage using that move. But I went ahead and just did it the simple method by keeping my character away from him as much as possible and seeing if I could hit him on that right hand side in any way, but I don't think it's actually possible. Maybe the B move is actually possible, but use your double jump to your advantage and keep jumping up and down, back and forth in between each of them, and eventually he will go down and you will get your achievement for killing the first boss. The bosses aren't actually too bad in this game, and the end of levels are usually these toilets, as you started out from a toilet in the very beginning of the game, so it just carries on that comedic effect. So you'll notice in the art style in this game, it's very unique. It's all hand-drawn, it looks like, and it reminds me a lot of Cuphead in a way, just without all the colour and sort of cartoony animation that you'd see in some sort of Disney film. But this is a relatively easy game. If you're pretty good at platformers, you'll pick this up relatively quickly, and it'll be such an easy completion for you. It's no Super Meat Boy, I can say that. But it shouldn't take you any more than sort of 30 minutes to an hour, I would say. You might have to practice a little just to get through a couple of sections, knowing where the checkpoints are for sure. I had a few times where I struggled with the levels myself, and it wasn't all that easy to get past, and I kept on having to try and locate the next checkpoint to try and get to the next part of the game, as I didn't want to just sit here for hours and try and perfect it, or even attempt to try and do the whole thing on hardcore mode. But it seems possible to do. It just takes a while if you are going to go for the hardcore mode, but there's only that one achievement at the end, like I said, for the boss. It does actually count the entire game, I do believe, for beating it on hardcore, but you can go ahead and play on it without that for the rest of the game, as it only counts the ending of the entire game. So the section coming up here is actually a plane that you can fly around, and it's really cool. It reminds me of those old shooter games, the side scrollers that move from the left, and you gotta dodge and shoot things as you keep on moving through the level, which is really fun. And the enemies are always constantly either there for comedic effect or have some serious overpowered weapons in which they can easily kill you with, which sometimes is a little bit ridiculous, in my opinion. Overall, my review of this game, I wouldn't give it too high of a score. I would probably give it a 6.1 out of 10. It's okay. It's not quite average. It's a little bit below average, but the things like the hit detection aren't always great, and the enemies seem to do a lot more damage than they should at times, which could be really frustrating, but it's not all that bad as long as you stick it out towards the end. And like I said, keep on going for those checkpoints. It can't be that tough. If I've managed to do it, I'm sure that you can do it also. There's only 10 achievements in the entire game, and they're not all that bad. Some of them are for getting kills, some of them are for killing bosses, but they're relatively easy and you'll pick them up as you play the game yourself. So if you do actually pop any achievement that I don't get in this video, it's probably because I've either edited it out due to dying a bunch of times on certain sections, or it's for overall kills, as the kills stack, as it seems, upon your death no matter what. Even if you do die, your kills will continue on. But going into the next section here with the aliens and explosive animals, the checkpoints seem to be getting further and further away from each other, which made things a lot harder, and it seemed like you had to do more timed jumps for your weapons, which made things a lot more difficult for me for some reason, as I couldn't really get the grip and the hang of having to tap the buttons so that my character could just slightly jump off the platform and I could shoot immediately without shooting either over them or not hitting them at all or even being hit. But we are going to actually come up to the second boss of the game here, which is another robot. Now, the tactic for this one that I went with is to use the beam on him when he's not shooting. There's also turrets to the left and the right, so you have to be careful. And there's also a toilet roll, which is your health you can gain back on the right hand side. I don't believe using your pistol here is really ideal. I mean, it would probably take you a significant amount of shots. I think it took me about 8 or 9 hits using the B move itself just to take him down. So the pistol would probably take you double or even triple that. So I definitely recommend using the B move here on this boss, as it's much, much easier. And if you do go down in your health, you'll notice, like I said, you could pick up that health on the right hand side, and you shouldn't have any problems with this boss whatsoever. So the second that you beat this boss, you can go ahead and move along, and you will get your achievement straight away after beating him. And there aren't any more enemies straight after it. It's just the checkpoint for the end of the level, which continues on to level 3, which I believe is actually the final level of the game. And after it is the final boss, which I show you how to do the slight, what I would call a glitch, that you can go and change the difficulty setting without it affecting the achievements, which is really cool. But obviously, as you continue out throughout the game, it's going to get progressively more difficult. There are going to be more enemies that either explode or make things just a living hell for you, that obviously shoot a lot faster, and it's not always ideal to run into those situations. You want to try and get out of those as soon as possible, as the second you're in an enemy's line of fire, they can do a serious amount of damage, as you may have found out during the second boss. But I think this game is overall okay. If they do release another game, hopefully it won't be as difficult as this one. On a difficulty scale, I'd probably give this maybe a 7 or an 8 for a platformer game. It's relatively tough. If you're not used to platformers, you're definitely going to struggle, and it'll take you significantly longer than someone who is used to playing platformers. The amount of weapons and variation of the enemies do continue as well, and they get more efficient in what they can do, so they can run faster, or there'll be animals with different types of weapons. So some of them will explode, some of them are extremely fast, some of them have rockets, so it entirely depends on what situation you do run into. But overall, if you can manage to make yourself aware of where the enemies are and get to the next checkpoint, you shouldn't have an issue. Just keep on taking your time as much as possible and mapping out your next plan of attack to take out either 1 or 2 enemies. Don't try and do it all in one run, because you will die and fail like I did multiple times. Hopefully you're better than me at this game, because I'm not the greatest at it at all. Even if you do die immediately after a checkpoint, it will reset you back to the checkpoint that you just activated. There's no sort of live system that if you do die, then you can go ahead and continue on. It's not an issue whatsoever. So if there were lives in this game, it would be extremely difficult to complete, in my opinion, especially if the levels were longer than this and had multiple checkpoints. It would be a complete nightmare. But thankfully, it's not that long of a game, and it only took me about 40 minutes myself. So overall, I think it should take anyone who isn't that used to platformers anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour for this entire game. Like, this guide is only around 17 minutes long, so For the entire game to be 17 minutes with all the levels that it has and all the bosses isn't actually too bad, and it's relatively cheap on the store, so if you want to go ahead and pick it up, it's a quick and easy completion for the 1000G. But we are going to be coming up to the last and final boss of the game, so I will show you what I do, which is I quit out of the game, I activate the hardcore mode, and then I start the game back up by clicking continue. That's very important that you do that when the last boss appears and you don't continue on with the boss and finish the level. So once you have actually done that and then you go back into the level and you complete the boss, you will actually get the achievement for the hardcore mode, which is a little bit of a workaround for the achievement itself, and I'm kind of happy they've done this, because if you had to do the whole thing in hardcore mode, it would have taken me absolutely hours, to be honest, as I'm not the greatest platformer player out there by any means. So I hope you guys are enjoying my commentary over this. I didn't really want to put much of the gameplay audio in. It was very, very minimal and could probably be improved upon. Didn't really have that much of a soundtrack to it, and the bullets didn't really make any sound effects, so it would have been very dull to listen to, but hopefully my commentary over this is a lot better than listening to the gameplay. But if you do manage to go ahead and pick it up and play it for yourself, you'll notice exactly what I mean when you're playing it. But with the final boss here, you will also have toilet papers spawn in, which do give you health back, but like I said, I think in hardcore mode, if you get hit once, it's game over, so they aren't really helpful in this whatsoever. If you're doing this casually, then yeah, by any means necessary, go and get as much health as you want. I don't believe these spaceships actually damage you, and I do know that the beams that they give off down below beneath them do stop your bullets from passing through them, and when you're trying to shoot at the wheel and they keep flying by with their beams on, then you won't be able to hit the wheel as easily. So hopefully you manage to do this boss, guys, and you're not as bad as me at it, as it took me multiple attempts to do this. It even gives you an animation at the top of the screen to tell you what to do, as each time the wheel rotates, it will damage the boss. I don't believe that actually shooting at him will do any damage, but you can shoot down the spaceships, which are stopping you from damaging the boss by using the wheel. Just don't jump into the spikes down below, and you shouldn't have any trouble whatsoever with this boss. It might take you a few tries, but overall, it's relatively easy, and I think the checkpoint is actually straight at this boss, so you can go ahead and do this relatively simple. But we are actually coming up to the end here. I know that I've been talking all the way throughout this video, and I have explained why, and if you do pick up the game, like I said, you'll know exactly why I wanted to commentate over this. The dialogue and the voice lines in it are comical, for sure. I think this entire game was just made out of pure comical effect and nothing more, but it makes for an easy 1000G and easy gamer score for you and I. But we are actually coming up to the end of the boss here, and I do manage to take him down, and you will see him fall into the pit below, which I believe is full of piranhas. And once you do beat him, all you have to do is go ahead and jump over the top, and you'll get your achievements for the hardcore mode as well, and you can go ahead all the way to the end of the level and finish out the game. You do go into the toilet inside a toilet right at the end here, and that will finish up the entire game. Hopefully you managed to go ahead and get this one completed, as it wasn't too bad for me. I could have done this a lot faster, I believe, and I think that there are a lot better platformers out there to choose and play from, but due to this title being from probably what I think is an indie developer, it's an okay game for what they've made. It's not amazing, but if they do actually make any more games, I would be interested to play them, as the easy gamer score is always welcomed. And I can go ahead and make guides for you here on the channel if you do want to see that. So let me know down in the comment section if you do actually want to see that, as I go ahead and defeat the final boss here. It's not too bad of a fight, just keep on jumping on the platform above and you should be good. Just keep dodging his bullets, shooting down the alien ships, and continue to rotate the wheel around using your pistol. I do think that it's actually faster to use the B move, but it is probably very risky to get up onto the platform where he is, because if he does hit you once, you're gonna have to redo this entire thing again, and that kind of sucks. So I wouldn't really want to put that on you guys, so I hope that you do actually manage to do this fight, because in hardcore mode, I know how things can be in other games, in like nightmare mode, hardcore mode, very difficult, whatever mode it is, challenging. They always have a different name in different games for these modes, but they all seem to be the same thing, where it's extremely difficult and you can barely be hit. So you have to really focus and get your timing right for the entire game. And if you're not good at that, then you probably aren't going to get it without a lot of practice. So it wasn't too bad for me to do this, and I did actually enjoy some of the game, and I think it could have quite a few improvements, but I don't want to cover all of that in this video. But I think you get the general gist of what I'm trying to say, as you will probably feel the same about a lot of the improvements yourself that I do mention from the couple of things that I have mentioned in the video so far. But I have been talking for quite a while now, so I want to leave you off with the rest of this video gameplay here as I do go ahead and beat the final boss, and hopefully you can as well using this guide tutorial. Let me know if you did actually manage to do it, or if you've been struggling like I did throughout it, because I know how much of a pain it can be, and the difficulty spike when you do get to the higher levels looking for toilet paper to try and keep yourself alive, and the checkpoints can be extremely tough to get to sometimes, but persevering, you should be able to get towards it, guys. It shouldn't be impossible for you in the slightest. Just keep practicing, and overall I believe that anyone should be able to do this really with enough time and patience. It definitely isn't going to go down as one of my favorite platformers, but it is one that will stick with me as to difficulty spike for sure, and I'll always keep this guide here on my channel as a reminder of what helped me towards my main goal. So let this video play out now, guys. So thank you all for listening to my commentary, and I want to thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed my commentary, and I will see you all in the next one.